Thanks for joining us tonight. The second night of the Democratic National Convention just wrapped up with Vice President Kamala Harris and running mate Tim Walz taking a break from the Chicago activities for a rally here in Wisconsin. The event had Pfizer foreman Milwaukee drawing a capacity crowd as the campaign seeks to solidify its base here in the battleground state. Chief political reporter Jason Zimmerman watched it all unfold. He's live in Milwaukee with your voice, your vote coverage tonight. Jason.
Bill, this arena was absolutely packed tonight for this rally earlier, with the campaign telling me about 15,000 people were on hand for the event. Vice President Kamala Harris took the stage roughly right after 8 o'clock tonight, traveling 90 miles north for this first of its kind event while her own convention was happening simultaneously. Walking on stage to an energetic crowd at Pfizer Forum, Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate Tim Walz holding a rally in Wisconsin to let voters here know the importance of winning the state in November.
We believe in the future. A future with affordable health care. A future with affordable child care. A future with affordable housing and paid leave. That's the future we believe in.
Walz also going on the attack against former President Donald Trump.
You run a campaign based on fear like them, you're going to run into a little trouble when you run into a campaign that's based on joy.
Harris also attacking Trump for his stance on abortion rights and appointing justices who overturned Roe v. Wade.
Bad behavior should result in a consequence.
Well, we will make sure he does face a consequence, and that'll be at the ballot box in November.
All of this just before a ceremonial roll call vote taking place at the DNC in Chicago, on display at the arena, with Governor Evers making a slight fumble of the confirmation.
I'll get there, Jason, I'll get there.
For those who stood in line to get in, it was a chance to see a piece of history.
I'm a Biden fan. I cannot deny the success of the Biden administration. I was scared and worried when he announced that he would not be running. I was completely floored by the support of Kamala.
After the rally, Vice President Harris went back to Chicago to attend post-convention night parties. She is expected to give her acceptance speech on Thursday night. Reporting live in Milwaukee, Jason Zimmerman, Action 2 News.